Well, all right, we will start the full board meeting. The meeting of the Texas State Technical College Board of Regents is called to order this Thursday, November 9th at 10:50 a.m. Jonathan, you want to lead us in the invocation?
Yes, sir. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we gather before you, recognizing every good and perfect gift is a gift from above. And in this season of Thanksgiving, we say thank you for the continued favor we received from the Capitol, for the growth in our numbers of the folks we are serving, for the enduring impact we have on those we serve. Your favor reminds us that whom much is given, much is expected. Much is expected. Please prepare us now to rise up to these increasing expectations, to grow what we have, and to spread our work into new communities. Let this week's proceedings be part of these preparations. Please bless this time together. Allow us to be united, to work in harmony, and to assist our fellow Texans that hope for prosperity. Equip us at TSTC to shape these students, to eventually serve, to fix, to create, to problem solve, to heal in the various communities across Texas and beyond. And Lord, we ask all this for your glory, in honor of your purposes and according to your will. Amen.
Thank you, Jonathan. We'll now determine a quorum. I'll call your name and request that you indicate your presence. Pat McDonald.
Present.
Curtis Cleveland.
Present.
Keith Honey.
Present.
Rob Miso. Not here. Kathy Stewart.
Present.
Lizzie De La Garza Putnit.
Present.
Ron Rohrbacher.
Present.
And myself, Ron Widup, here, but not totally with my voice. We have a quorum. You have the agenda before you. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll move to adopt.
Motion by Lizzie,
Second.
second by Pat. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? The ayes have it, motion carries. Next, we'll consider the minutes of the August 9th and 10th, 2023 board meetings, and you have those minutes in your board materials. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Move to be approved as presented.
Move to be approved by Curtis,
A second?
second by Kathy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. We've reached the public comment section of our meeting. Procedures for public comments at TSTC board meetings are governed by the Texas statute and the bylaws of the Board of Regents of the Texas State Technical College. These laws allow for comments from the public on any item contained on the publicly posted agenda before the item is considered by this governing body. This will be the only time during this meeting set aside for public comment. Section 551042 of the Texas Open Meetings Act restricts the TSTC Board of Regents dialogue in response to public comments. Are there any public comments? Hearing none, the public comments period is concluded. Chancellor, do you have any comments?
I do indeed, sir. Thank you very much. I have broken with tradition and I have a PowerPoint this time. Let's see if we can go. Okay, go back. But before I get started with that, I'd like to make two acknowledgments if I could. The first is, this is the week of Veterans Day. And so on behalf of the entire TSTC family, I want to extend our thanks to all of those who have served. Our freedom is never free. And the sacrifices you made, we deeply appreciate. So thank you to all the veterans on behalf of the whole family. The second is, today's Discovery Day on the Waco campus. And regrettably, you're cloistered away in this meeting, so you can't see that we had well over 2,000 students RSVP, and we usually have a show-up rate of somewhere between 75 and 80%. So we're gonna have close to 2,000 kids running around the campus today. And if you were out there, you would see the yellow school buses filling the parking lots. And you may have seen students running up and down the stairs here. What we have found is once students can actually see the labs in which they'll do their work, the chances of them attending here are better still. And so congratulations to the Waco team for the work that they're doing, but this is the sort of thing we do across the state. So I wanted to bring that up and explain why you see all those kids running around. So I'm going to talk about a couple things here. First, I'm going to talk about, I want to share with you some of the themes you're going to hear in this meeting. And you'll see them in the material, you'll hear them in the oral or written reports. You'll see in the various reports that you have from vice chancellors and the functionals, these themes. Then I want to show you some numbers which were developed by our digital and by our analytics team. And these are some new looks that we're seeing for the first time. And so I wanted to share them with you too. And I'll also show you some of the recent third-party accolades that TSTC has received, which I think you'll be proud to view. So first, we'll go to some of the themes. Last summer, y'all said to us, we want you to grow. And we took that to heart and we got busy and we did all kinds of things, including restructuring the management team and a whole bunch of things you didn't see. Well, the critical question is, grow what? Because, if you're not growing the right thing, then growth for its own sake is not material. At TSTC, the two main things that we need to always grow are the job placements and the earnings of our graduates. That drives our formula funding, but it also answers the mission given to us by the legislature, which is grow the workforce of Texas. And so those first two, if we do that, we will quite naturally also going to grow revenues. And in order to do revenues, revenues are outcomes, and those are outcomes. We have to also grow inputs and throughput. So at TSTC, we focus on all these things to grow. Generally speaking, here's your enrollment numbers down here. And here's the outcomes that we get as a result of that. So you'll hear your vice chancellors make references to these kinds of themes throughout this whole thing. And frankly, that'll be a main theme from this point forward. Number two, we have shared with you, starting with the planning session last year, that there are some main things we can do to help with the growth. The first is we can grow the capacity of the existing programmatic mix. In other words, we talked yesterday with some of the faculty and they told you, yeah, I could handle 40 more students or 50 more students. Well, focusing on opening up that capacity is often the first place to get some growth. The next is the array or the variety of programmatic offerings. This is always a bit tougher because it takes a much bigger investment to do that, but it's nonetheless a strategy. And then the geographic locations. The most recent location we opened was the FAME Training Center in New Braunfels. That opened 2 months ago. We just had a big open house celebrating Manufacturing Week, and the senators showed up, representatives showed up, the entire communities of that region showed up. It was a big event. But training venues is another, and we have more like that are in the pipeline right now. Workforce training is a growth market for us. It's lucrative. It really goes to what we do. It meets our legislative mission. And thanks to work in the legislature and some new focus in it, you'll hear about how CLEDIA has realized an extraordinary increase in revenues in workforce training, and growing our foundation is, of course, another focus. And we now have Patty with us as the new CEO. You got to meet her last night. And she's going to stand on the shoulders of those who went before us and take us to the next level. So those are all themes you'll hear about. We also shared through the course of the planning process in the past, the notion of the big three. We know that community colleges aspire to do what we do. And some of them are well capitalized. And so it is an imperative that TSTC behave in a way that sets us apart. And that's particularly true given the fact that, for example, a kid from Dallas who wants to come to TSTC has to drive by 2 or 3 Dallas college locations to get to a TSTC. A kid from San Antonio has to do the same thing. And so having a sustainable competitive advantage is key. We've refined that into these 3 pillars, and I shared these with you last time during planning, and you'll see these over and over again. And so we focus our efforts on being compellingly different in a way that industry and students can see. In other words, in a way that they find attractive. Best in class quality, we can't ever surrender that. And it deepen our responsiveness to industrial employers. This one's really important because this is one the community colleges really struggle to match. And then the other thing you'll hear us talk about is a bit of operational maturity and strength building. We've achieved some amazing things in the past couple of years, but we all know that no matter how good we get, there's always room for a bit more improvement. And so there is an attitude among your leadership team of maturing and strengthening our operations over time. We know Rome wasn't built in a day, and every time we achieve something good, we're gonna be happy, but we're gonna keep moving on making it better. And so you'll hear those themes. And here's a bit of results. In the past 12 months, we've grown our enrollment, we've grown our dual credit, we've grown our workforce training volumes, both headcount and revenues. We've grown our overall revenues this fall to a record level, and we've grown our foundation. So TSTC is in, and you'll hear more detail in Michael's presentation that shows you where a lot of that growth is. Now I want to pivot, if I could, to some accolades that TSTC has received recently. I shared with you recently an email about the Aspen 150. There are about 1,000 two-year schools in America. Making it to the Aspen 150 is kind of like the Academy Award of two-year colleges. It means, it's like being nominated for the Academy Award. You're among the best. And colleges usually take this logo and stick it on everything when they make it to the 150. It means we also qualify for further awards down the road. And if you're picked as the single best, they give you $1 million. So we'll see where that goes, but I will tell you, just being nominated in the 150 is a big deal. So I wanted to share that with you. Here's some points of excellence from various players. Niche is a college selection website. And so they are constantly assessing the virtues of the various college opportunities and then reporting them out to students who are trying to determine where do I want to go to school and why. And what you'll find is they've rated us in 2024 in the top 10 in Texas, in the top 100 in America, top 100 in Hispanic, and the top 25 in culinary arts is an example of what they've said. And that's national. This one, top 25 national. Another website similar to that is the College Factual, and you can see here are accolades here in terms of their rankings of us. You know, being best for the money, top 15 in America, that's a pretty big deal. And of course, top 5 for students means we are we are a student-focused place to go. So these are some really good. Military friendly is something we own this award year after year. Spouse friendly is another deal because often veterans have families. And having a school that's sensitive to the fact that a military family has special needs, that's a big deal too. And of course, we've been a Hispanic serving institution for years. I'll show you more about the Denoto Award. When we merged the colleges in 2015, one of the things we knew is we needed to get way better at data-driven decisions. We were literally running the place like this. We didn't have any dashboards. We didn't know where we were. And we set out to create a business analytics unit that has begun to reach really extraordinary levels. And let me show you some indication of where that group is. And I asked for some summary out of Dale in terms of tell me more about this award. And what his people did is they put together this quick video. So I want to show you the video that explains it.
The Denoto Data Innovation Award was won this year by Texas State Technical College. Let's talk more about what this means for TSTC. The award was presented to TSTC at Denoto Data Fest. This is an annual global event that's held across multiple continents, and there are leaders and companies represented from private, public, nonprofit, all different sectors from all over the world. Top tier companies attend these events. As you can see, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they were all present with us at the September event in Boston. And you can also see, this is from their website, that our TSTC logo and branding is represented among these larger brands as well. The Data Innovation Award itself is a pretty big deal. It recognizes the most innovative data-driven business solutions. There are over 100 entries each year. A selection committee chooses 3 finalists, and the 3 finalists are invited to present their business challenges and their data-centric solutions to the entire conference. So all those big companies, all of our peers are in the audience, and there's a blind ballot vote. This is just a sample of some of the previous finalists in prior years. And as you can see here, they go across all different industries. They have pretty large annual revenues. So you may be wondering why TSTC was nominated for this award. Denoto actually approached us after hearing us speak about our unique mission and current data transformations at a local Denoto summit in Dallas, Texas. We were invited to apply for this competitive award, and we were nominated in the Mergers and Acquisitions category, which focuses on innovative data strategies to overcome challenges brought on by merging organizations, such as our 2015 merger under one TSTC. And we beat out the other semifinalists, TPG, or Texas Pacific Group, and T-Mobile. The 3 finalists selected this year were Estes Express Lines, the largest privately held freight transportation company in North America, Perkins Coie, an international corporate law firm across the US and Asia, and of course, us, Texas State Technical College. All 3 finalists presented to the conference about why they should win the Data Innovation Award based on their strategic use of data. And of course, the audience voted for Texas State Technical College to win. So we were honored in front of the entire conference.
What particularly gratifying is the fact that imagine a conference full of data scientists.
That's the part.
Okay. An entire ballroom full of data scientists, and they voted for us. I think that's pretty spectacular. So congratulations, Dale, to your data team.
Yeah,
George McKeas is the leader of that team. An extraordinary talented guy who has assembled an amazing team. And hardly a month goes by that we don't find new insights into the way that we do business and new opportunities that this team doesn't provide to us. I'll show you some of the info they've begun to show us that we had inklings, but we didn't know with certainty. So here is, for example, the enrollment trend. Back when we merged, right in here, we had a blend of product lines, if you will, that was all over the map. I mean, we were doing a whole bunch of academics, we were doing a whole bunch of tech prep stuff and things like that. And what we realized is we had wandered away from our mission. Our mission is workforce, industrial workforce. And so we set out on a long-term phasing toward, dancing with those who brung us, if you will. And so what you can see over time is the red line is the growth in our technical. And right here is where we closed 13 programs. And if you remember back then, we told you we're going to lose at least 1,200 headcount when we close these programs. And then it'll take us a year or two to replace that volume by reallocating that capital and space to other places. And then it began to head back up again. And so meanwhile, we are phasing down the other stuff. If all of these had been technical in the first place, you can see how much higher our numbers would have been all along the way. And so when you've looked at enrollment headcount, you're seeing everybody all in one basket, but the real key number is the technical. And so I wanted to show you that. Next is market share. We have suggested to you market share in a competitive environment is a key metric. How are you doing versus the competition? Here are 4 select programs. Instrumentation, we produce 22%, or let's call it 1 in 5 graduates in Texas come out of TSTC. Electrical line worker, 2 out of 3 technicians come out of TSTC. EPC, we have half of all the technicians come out of TSTC. And here's one we aspire to get stronger in. We're in 2nd place to Collin County on Surge Tech. Surge Tech is an aspiration because their earnings are extraordinary. And they're extraordinary because the demand is so big. Any comments?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
What are their earnings?
Say,
What are their earnings?
6 figures.
Wow.
Yeah,
They like start at $100,000.
yeah,
And that's a 2-year?
yes.
associate?
Mhm. Right now, we only have it in Harlingen. And so this is one that I think we have that and other allied health we have on our aspiration list. Here's construction trades. Something we talked about yesterday. 1 in 3 of all construction trades technicians in Texas come out of TSTC. There are 50 other colleges, and we produce 1 in 3. Here on precision production, we're somewhere about 1 in 8. So if you'll notice, one of the interesting things, if we go back on some of these, is the blend of colleges that we're competing against will shift around. But down in the valley, South Texas is a really strong competitor. But not everybody focuses on everything. Oops, I went the wrong one. So here's another one, welding. 1 in 7 welding students are TSTCers, and then 1/3 of the diesel mechanics. So, and look at this. When it comes to diesel, we do more than the next 3 put together. So in terms of market share, we can look at that again. I mean, in construction, I'm sorry, Ron. I'm really sorry. But you can see we're the 8,000-pound gorilla in building trades and nearly so in precision machining. So earnings. Half of our formula is driven by the earnings of our graduates. So the blue bar are state averages. The red bar are TSTC numbers. So what you see is if you compare our graduates with the overall Texas workforce, our graduates make 36% higher than average. All sources. including lawyers and doctors, and not that we beat each one of them, but that they're included in that average. Here are anybody with an associate's degree, 50% higher earnings if you graduate from TSTC. Anybody with no post-secondary, then it gets higher. And then compared to minimum wage, you know, it's a no-brainer that TSTC is going to get you an extraordinary outcome here. These are the sorts of insights we haven't had available until recently. Found working, okay. If we can't find our graduates in the economy, then we can't get paid for them. We consistently have the highest found working rate. What that means is we do a better job of targeting the economy and getting people to work. Next is, okay, this is 10 years after graduation. So 10 years after graduation, these are the next 4 best colleges in Texas. So 10 years after graduation, our average graduate is making $82,000, and the next closest competitor is down about 40. So that is a compelling story regarding if I go to TSTC, I'm likely to have a really good career. Finally, our mission is statewide. A huge differentiator for us is that we're supposed to serve all of Texas. And I've already told you that one of the things we should do is very selectively put new branches down, very selectively and strategically. But we're already doing an outstanding job of serving the whole state. This is the past 14 years, almost 90% of the zip codes in Texas have sent students to TSTC. And it interesting is, look at how Marshall, which is not one of our bigger locations, is pulling from all over East Texas. And of course, here's the Texas Triangle, and you can see how those students I referred to that are driving past a community college to come to a TSTC, they're doing just that to come here. So we're doing an outstanding job. I mean, well, pulling people out of Oklahoma. Of course, we have a reciprocity agreement with Louisiana, so students from Shreveport pay in-state tuition when they come over to us. And Harlingen's doing an outstanding job in the Valley. In other words, these dots might as well be, here's where the people are, and that's who we're pulling from. So I think we're doing awfully good there. So with that, I conclude my remarks with, we are growing all the things that matter. And last time I told you about our catchphrase is placing more Texans in great paying jobs. Your team is focusing on more, and that's exactly what you're getting, is more. So, any questions, comments? Yes, sir.
Are the Roswell programs, is it in leased space or
Yes.
donated space?
It's in lease space.
We're leasing space there.
Yes, yes.
On those comparisons to all the college, I was surprised that Lamar didn't show up anywhere.
Lamar is very capable college, but they aren't really that big. They aren't very big. They are very capable though. I can't say anything bad about Lamar at all. But they also do a lot of technical that we would never do. And the reason is, you know that we focus on the industrial, the hard to deliver, the high value end of the market. And they'll do a lot of things that from an earnings standpoint, can't compete with those high value programs that we do. So for example, if we considered something like, I don't know, CNA or phlebotomy, I mean, these are jobs needed by the economy, but they don't fit well in our funding formula. So you would see Lamar would beat us out in some other areas.
Well, instrumentation is an example.
Oh, yeah.
they've had millions of dollars donated to an instrumentation program.
Mhm.
And evidently, they're not turning out the graduates.
No comment.
Very good.
I return to you, sir.
Thank you, Chancellor. We'll now begin the committee section of the agenda. We'll start with the Committee for Student Learning and Student Development, chaired by Kathy Stewart.
Alright. The Student Learning and Student Development Committee met virtually on Thursday, November the 2nd. Jonathan and his team took us through the transformation that the operations team, which they prefer to call this committee, has been undergoing over the last 12 months. There was assuming leadership over more than 900 teammates and the company's product delivery division. Jonathan and his team approached this new assignment in November of 2022, so last year, a year ago, with intentional change management, tremendous care, and a mission to prioritize our big three. So in that fiscal year of 2023, we discussed many things, but of important note are the following accomplishments of that team. So 4 primary objectives that we're celebrating from this past year, and their tremendous work. So for alignment for growth, they implemented an organizational design and development for those 900 teammates and their work so they could align their execution and growth of what they were doing. They did some retooling of the retooling. So as you guys recall, we were retooling how we did education and all that. Well, they shifted from a speed over quality focus to quality over speed approach. So there was actually a definitive pause that occurred in this past year to really look at what had been done. Was it working? Was it not working? What should we do moving forward? So they slowed that whole process down and started retooling that approach. So it's more sustainable and effective in the manner that they have now put together. They stepped in and did some rapid intervention in Waco. So there was a feeling that we had a lot of focus had been put everywhere else. Waco had kind of fallen by the wayside. So there was some strong leadership that had to take over here at the Legacy campus and really did some really specific work on reactivating some community engagement and fortifying the WorkSite project, which was sort of just sitting in limbo out there for a little bit. Had been talked about, just wasn't coming to fruition. So real effort was put in that direction. And of course, along with that, they recast their whole operations leadership team, including setting some new expectations, new leadership, new behaviors, new priorities, and standards. It makes me tired and exhausted just thinking about it. But they have put a lot of work in the last year. And this was not done alone. So Jonathan made sure and the team made sure that we understood, Lizzie and I were on the call, that operations didn't do this alone. Marketing was very involved because what we sell is what we deliver. And so the teams have really combined to make sure that it's together. So yes, Jonathan and the team did say this past year has been intense. It's been meaningful. It's been successful. And I'm very proud of what the team has done. We do have 2-minute orders today, so I will hand it over to Jonathan to discuss those 2 items of work that we need to do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity in those working sessions to invite Regents into the weeds with us a little bit, and it really was fun to reflect on what happened last year. I think y'all got a teaser of it yesterday. I was very pleased with the tour. And, I think what we witnessed yesterday is a lot of what we witnessed over the last year. I mean, faculty, staff, just passionate, capable, service-oriented folks all across this organization that really believe our mission to the core, and they do that work every day. And so sometimes we have plans that we have to retool. Sometimes we have execution we need to retool, or our structures something we want to reevaluate. But boy, the people are really good, and they audible out there, and their first focus is students, and so that's just been so refreshing, and that's the reason why we're seeing those numbers like we're seeing. You know, it's special and it's hard to create, and I think it's taken years and years and years to become, you know, to see that kind of special culture form. And I'm really glad y'all got to see that yesterday. Talk about the new Waco leadership. Y'all got a sense of that the last couple of days. Beth Wooten did a fantastic job taking us through the programs and representing them last night. We just a couple more reflections on that, though. You know, I think we've talked a lot about our process and what we try to pay attention to during that. I've undergone a lot of major org development projects in my career, but never one quite as extensive as this. And it was really fantastic. We had a lot of meaningful input from faculty, and we were very careful to do that, to really invite them into the process. But also tremendous support from my partners. The leadership team really has been there, linked up with us as we've gone about doing that, made some real commitments to us. We really believe this partnership model. And so I may have responsibility over those teammates, but the way we look at it is I'm only a 1/10 owner. And so we all commit together in really trying to do our best work there. So thank you to the team for supporting us during this last year. Yeah, the focus of that work ultimately, to really say it briefly, is to empower and support those guys that y'all saw yesterday. You know, Tim and Darren, Herschel, really come behind them with leadership support and resources. And we feel like we have shifted from discovery to really focused execution right now. And so I think in the months and years ahead, the way we've reassembled things, the regions are going to get new visibility into our product lines, into our locations. So really looking forward to sharing that out in the years to come. We do have, as Regent Stewart mentioned, we have 2 action items, and we do have a report. We handed it out, and I'll give some context on that. So the 2 reports are pretty routine items. The first is asking the board's approval. It's minute order SL03 on the consent agenda. It asks for the board to approve contracts for the commercial driver's license training associated with our electrical line worker program. This is offered to our students because it's been seen as something essential to the industry that's hiring them. So we've had to contract with an outsourced provider for the last several years. We've been unable to deliver that on our own, but we're making plans to do that, to insource that. But for now, to continue to do that, we need to engage in this contract, and we expect in the next fiscal year it'll exceed $1 million, and we need the board's approval before we enter into the contract fully. So we ask your approval of that.
Does this allow us to teach it on any campus that teaches lineman training?
I'm not sure the answer to that. I know it's really focused on, I think, Marshall and Waco. Is that right? And I think our plan is to build up our capacity to be able to offer it directly.
So we were in Harlingen at the dinner.
Harlingen too.
One of the people that I sat with was an employer. He said, man, if you teach those guys, if you get them a CDL, whatever it's called, it sure help us.
Are we directly providing it in Harlingen?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have CDL training capabilities, and we have, I think, a pretty well-established one in Harlingen. So I think we're able to offer it
They're
directly,
asking it to be a part of the lineman training.
just integrated into the training.
Yeah, this is.
I think it's an additional cost under our workforce training, but it is, it's an add-on. The next minute order is student, or SL 04-23C, and it's another delegation of authority on a contract. This is the master service agreement with Altex Welding Supply. So TSDC does a lot of procurement of our instructional materials on a statewide basis. Allows us to achieve some economies of scale, and kind of elaborate on that in the minute order. And so because we are purchasing for our statewide welding programs with this one, it'll exceed $1 million next year, and to enter into contract with them, we'll need board approval on this one as well. So we respectfully request approval of that. And then the last piece of business is not in the materials for discussion purposes. We've handed it out here. This is a report of honorary degrees awarded during fiscal year 2023. The board authorized the college to make such awards in 2018. In our tradition, our new tradition, as the board has, pardon me, delegated authority, we would like to report back when we make use of that authority, and this is an example of that. So these are 4 students that have passed away during the last year, and so we did issue honorary awards to them, and we're able to send the award to their family and honor them in that way. And so we'll make this a continued tradition and report this back to the board. Y'all pray for our students. Man, we've had a record number of students pass away this fall, and it's just heartbreaking. So I believe in the power of prayer, and I think we'd be appreciative of it. With that,
Jonathan, I've got a question.
yes, ma'am.
They weren't related to their job site, were they?
No.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. With that, that completes our report. Regent Whittup.
Thank you, Kathy. So Kathy and I are on the Fiscal Affairs Committee. I chair that, but since I'm sitting in for Dr. Tremont, we will ask Kathy to, again, as a member of that committee, to give the Fiscal Affairs Committee report.
All righty. Thank you, Regent Whittup. The Fiscal Affairs Committee met virtually on November the 6th, and we discussed the minute orders that are in front of you. There are 2 and 7 reports that the board needs to consider. And I'm going to turn it over to Chad to have that discussion.
Thank you. We have the 2 minute orders. They are not necessarily frequent, but they are routine. We do these at least once a year. So the first one, at every November meeting, we review the policy for investments. This is the longest minute order you will ever see. It is 8 pages long. It is all, the entire policy is a part of the minutes. So this year, we're not recommending any changes. We made some changes last year as we issued bonds and invested some of those bond proceeds, but we're not making any changes, recommending any this year. And additionally, I would like to report that as part of this policy, the Fiscal Affairs Committee is required to review the status of the college's depository agreements annually. And the committee did that review at our committee meeting. The second minute order relates to appropriation transfers. When TSTC receives appropriations from the state still accounts for them by campus. Even though we are one college, the bill pattern, frankly, just never got changed. And so the money still comes in by campus. And every year when the fiscal year starts, we do a little adjustment to make sure how we're spending that money flows with the bill pattern. So you'll see we'll transfer $2 or $3 million from various campuses back and forth. And we will do this likely again toward the end of the fiscal year. This is to get us started. We'll spend through the year, and then as we get close to the end, we'll transfer again and true it all up. Any questions on the minute orders? To start the reports, the first one is the quarterly investment report. And this is as of August 31st, which is the last day of our fiscal year. So for this meeting, you will see in the gray column there a comparison to the last fiscal year. In our operating cash and investments, we're at about $40.6 million. That is about $12 million lower than this time last year. And we will talk through that when we get to the budget performance report. But we invested some of our carry forwards from previous years into our growth plan toward the end of fiscal year 23. Our endowment funds are rocking along. Interest rates are going up a bit. And then finally at the bottom, you will see the bond proceeds and debt service funds. Still have a vast majority of those CCAP funds. We've spent, I believe, 20 million or so, but as these construction projects break ground, we'll see those funds go down. And then on the second page, interest rates are still doing well. And we got those bond proceeds. They're earning 4.5% to 5% interest. And so for the year ending 8/31/23, we earned nearly $12.5 million in interest. Last year on this report, this number was less than $1 million. That's how fast interest rates changed. But a majority of this 12.5 will be invested back into the CCAP projects as well as help pay initial debt service. The second report is the pledged collateral report. You'll see on the far right-hand column, all of our depositories were sufficiently collateralized for the quarter. Debt management report. We do this twice a year according to our policy for debt management. And so we report to the board the debt service that we have scheduled for the year, the total outstanding debt, and the bond ratings. And this has certainly changed since we issued the CCAP bonds, but there on page 26, you'll see a vast majority of our debt service is paid for by the state through appropriated funds. So nearly 70% of our debt service is covered with state funds. Total outstanding debt as of August 31st is $398 million. We will here, the next sort of movement I see in the debt structure is the HEAF bonds. They're on the top line. Those are 10-year issuances. The legislature is scheduled to reallocate the HEAF in 2025 in the next legislative session. So these will get paid off then, and then we'll likely issue new HEAF bonds, which are actually backed by the full faith and credit of the state of Texas, because HEAF funds come through the Constitution. So those get great credit ratings. So we'll likely issue some more of those. And then finally, our bond ratings, we're rated by Fitch and Moody's. These haven't changed since the last time we did this, but we just heard from Moody's this week. We'll schedule a review with them in January. Once we get our financial statements done, send them the financials and they'll analyze it, and we'll provide that update likely at the next board meeting.
Any indication of movement on that?
Not really. I think we've just now finished our financial statements for the year. Our balance sheet has certainly grown, but it's pretty stable. We will, here in this next report, actually, I'll talk a little bit about the investments we made, and so that could affect how they see us and how their ratios are calculated.
Aren't some of the agencies a bit bearish on higher ed right now?
They are definitely bearish on the sector, but the one thing that I always hear from them, or I've heard in the last 3 or 4 years, is that TSTC consistently has strong state support. They've seen the legislature time and time again appropriate us what we've earned. And that is really one of the most foundational points of our credit rating. They know the state loves us and they're going to fund us. So the budget performance report, this is, again, is for the whole fiscal year of ending 8/31/23. I'll start with the end, which is we had a $5.1 million operating deficit for FY23. But that was planned, I'll say, is the best way to say it. We invested funds into the growth areas that we talked about, instruction and operations and in marketing. And we knew appropriations were going up because the legislature funded this again. So we ramped up, sort of plowed in our reserves from the last few years and got a running start into fiscal year 24, where our appropriations are $25 million higher than they were the year before. And there on note 10, I sort of talk about the past. In the last 3 years, FY20 to FY22, we had collective surpluses totaling $13.5 million. And it's times like this, we remember we are ultimately a nonprofit organization. We are not here for profitability. We're here for effectiveness and efficiency. So we're not trying to hoard money. We're not trying to create huge operating margins. We're trying to spend the state's money as effectively and efficiently as we can. And so this is, it's a growth year. And as the chancellor talked about growth, what goes through my mind is it makes your statements look different. As you grow, you start spending more money, you start collecting more money, you borrow more money. It makes this, the budgeting and planning and reporting process a little different, but I think we're pretty well on target given our plan.
Could I add
Sure.
something right here? Because, I mean, you just alluded to footnote 10, and it brings to mind something. For those of you who aren't numbers people, and some people are, some people aren't, if there's one thing that I urge you to review more carefully in Chad's reports, it's always this page right here. Because this contains all the business rationale for the way that the numbers move.
You're talking about the notes page.
The notes page. Don't gloss past that, because this will give you great insights into the big pieces that are moving around inside the company. So just wanted to offer that up. I mean, it's easy to just bottom line us, but there's a ton of detail in here that, as our governing board, will give you a lot of insight. And
to add to
this
that,
is something that first Jonathan and then Chad have matured over the years. And I'm really proud of that page.
that's the first place I go because it's in lay terms, it's easy to understand, and it really gives you a good perspective. You guys do a great job on the notes.
Thank you. Yeah,
Very helpful.
it's a team effort, but there's an explanation to every one of these numbers on this page. It's just taking the time to do it. So talking about growth again, I'll highlight a couple of things in revenue. In fiscal year 23, we were short of our tuition budget by almost $3 million. The good news is for the fall that just started a month ago, the enrollment hit and the tuition hit. And so we are just on track or above to hit our $60 million budget for FY24. So we can talk about the growth, but I can see the growth in the bank, so to speak. The other thing is the growth we saw from budget in our auxiliary enterprises, our industry relations, and our fees and educational sales. We budgeted in total in those three categories $14 million last year, and we recorded $19 million of revenue. So And again, as I mentioned, the $25 million increase in appropriations. We're investing in growth. We are spending more money, but I'm seeing those few important positive indicators that calms me down when I know we are spending more money, I guess is the best way to say it. And then on the expense side, we have had some strategic investments in certain things. Data and analysis is one. Workday, the operating software that we use is another one. We're buying some airplanes for pilot training. But the vast majority of our investments are in our people. Compensation is extremely competitive still. I think it's hopefully cooling off a little bit, but it's hard to stay competitive in this market. But we've allocated, last year it was $11 million. This year we budgeted more of it, but we still have $7 million in a pool this year that we've allocated. So you'll see we're investing in our people, and not only trying to stay competitive with incumbent employees, but we're also investing in new people. Jonathan's initiative that he talked about is going to require some new folks. In 23, we invested in recruiting and enrollment coaches. So to meet the students where they are. So that's where we put the money, and I think we've threaded the needle pretty well, honestly, to get through 23 into 24. So now we'll watch 24 very closely. We're getting more sophisticated with our position budgeting tools, which is big because we spend so much money on payroll. But so far, I think we're meeting the growth from a financial standpoint pretty well. It's hard to get it just right, but financially we're in sync. So two more reports. These are every quarter we report on the delegation that the board gave to management to execute short-term leases. We had two of those this quarter. One was a parking lease out here on the airport, and another one was some classrooms at the North Texas campus. And then finally, the report that gets longer every meeting is the quarterly report for contracts that are greater than $1 million. This report used to be about half a page, and now it's almost 2 because there's so much growth going on. Jonathan just presented minute orders that will add to this list even more, but you'll see almost every single CCAP project on here, and the new ones for this quarter is not a CCAP project, but it's another significant project in Waco of $9 million to renovate the Technical Studies Center. That's about half funded by a federal grant. So, and then we changed energy providers, which that contract will be effective 1/1 to TXU Energy, and then PBK for architectural and engineering services for our East Williamson County CCAP project. And just one note that we talked about in the committee, it is so much work to get these contracts done. I mean, you think about each one of these contracts is probably 80 pages, and there's a procurement process, an approval process, a selection process, and then finally a documentation and contract management process. So our procurement services group has done a great job, but to get to this point where we can show all this work on 2 pages is a cool thing. So.
I've got a question.
Sure.
Incline Alchemy. So Workday is the actual system. Incline Alchemy, they do.
It's the consultant that helps us implement the Workday product. So Workday, we sort of buy the product off the shelf, but we don't know exactly how to use it. We don't know exactly how to apply our processes to make it work most efficiently. So we pay this consultant, Inline Alchemy, to help us implement. And it's a 5-year sort of, the original budget was 5-year, $15 million project. Oddly enough, the cost for the product is about $1 million a year. It's, you pay the consultants more than you pay for the actual
It's like
software.
double.
Yeah, and it's just for man hours that those consultants spend with all of our teams. Like right now, we're hot and heavy into the Workday student implementation. We've gone live with part of that. We will go live with the last part, I believe, in March. And so meetings upon meetings, day after day after day, it is all people are living around here right now in certain pockets. So that's the difference between Alchemy and Workday itself.
Chad, you've done a great job the last couple of years from a budget standpoint of allocating more funds to deferred maintenance. And Kevin has done a fabulous job of giving us a report on deferred maintenance for each campus, which Keith and I have asked for 5 years. Good job, Kevin. When you have a surplus, that's where I'm going. My question is, do you consider allocating more to deferred maintenance when you have a surplus?
Usually when we have a surplus, we just sit on it initially, but when we make the next year budget, then yes, that's when we say, we look at, it's just kind of watching these scales tip, right? And you see what you have carry forward. And then when we budget, deferred maintenance has been high on our list. This year in 24, we added another $1 million. We were at 4.5, and I think we're at 5.5 now. And every year, that's the top 2 or 3 things we've got to keep investing in deferred maintenance. So not specifically do we do that, but it is definitely on our priority list every year as we budget.
My point is, good job, good job.
Yeah.
Thank you. And if there are no other questions, that concludes my report.
And that concludes our report.
Now call on Keith Honey, Chair of the Facilities Committee.
Thank you, Regent Witta. Our committee met on November 6th virtually, Rick Herrera, Kevin Simeon, and myself. Of course, we reviewed the minute orders that you'll have before you today, looked at the major project status update, and as Curtis just talked about, the deferred maintenance schedule, and then Kevin gave a really nice overview of campus services and the current status of that, which we're going to hold for a future board meeting, but very enlightening to me to see how far we're coming on campus services and what's happening there. So look forward to that in the future. Today we have 6-minute orders. We have a couple of reports, and some of those have been revised and handed out to you just before the meeting. So take note of minute order 19 is just slightly revised with, I think it just had a minor typo. Minute order 20 is a new handout that you got today. We had a placeholder for it, but we were waiting on some numbers to come in, so we've got those, and Rick will be talking about that one, I think, today. And then we've got a new handout on facilities project status update, which is some new dates in it. And finally, just a slight revision in the deferred maintenance report, right, Kevin? So those things are all new. Some of them are in this folder, right, that was handed out. And some of them were placed in your notebook as right before the meeting. So I'm sorry there's a bunch of papers to shuffle, but hopefully we can get them all straight as we go through. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rick to start the process, and he and Kevin are going to kind of tag team through these minute orders and the reports.
Minute order of 1523 is a request for approval to accept the completion of a project. This is the abate and demo project that actually demoed all those homes and created the new Craven Road entrance. included in the minute order are some before and after photos, where you can see the number of houses that were there and roads as well, and then some green space as a result of the demo process. This project is near completion, and it's met the substantial completion and will be completed before the next board meeting. So we're asking for your approval to accept the project. No questions. Minute order 1623. This is a project to include a new abate and demo project. Over the last couple of years, we have purchased a lot of property around the Waco area, and this is requesting your approval for us to start demoing some of those properties. We do have some properties that are still being under consideration whether to demo or not. But either way, if we were to remove those off the list, it would still be greater than $1 million. So we have them on there, and we'll apply our discretion to make sure that we make the right decision on which ones to demo. The one in question, namely, is the Crest Apartments that are right across the JBC building. Kevin has a great ideas of maybe repurposing that building into office space. So we're looking at making sure that we make the best decision possible. But from a board approval standpoint, I felt it prudent to just include it now versus coming back to you later for an amendment. The next minute order is 1723. This is increasing the budget to the JBC remodel that we have started. In the process of demolition, the architect and the contractor found that the fire suppression between the two floors was inadequate for the facility. They found too many perforations between the two floors where in the case of a fire, it could leak into the third floor. In the review, they felt that the best approach to solve that issue is to actually add a sprinkler system to the third floor. Initially, they were just considering adding fire suppression material at the floor level, but given the amount of perforations throughout that floor, the best thing would be to add a sprinkler system to the third floor. The majority of the cost for this is due to the fire suppression. We do have some changes in the first floor renovation. Michael had an opportunity to enhance the technology that we're going to install there. And as a result of that, we had to modify the infrastructure a bit. So we went ahead and included that as part of the cost for remodel. The cost is over $1 million, which requires board approval. We're asking for your approval to do so.
All right. Minute order 18. Chad mentioned this, right? We've seen a tremendous amount of growth specifically in this fall in housing and in our meal plans for the campuses. So for us, this is an opportunity to look at those costs that come along with that. And we want to try to increase those rates, 5% for housing, rental rates, and 10% for our food. So we just think in order to continue to improve on quality in those areas, we need to proceed in that direction. And in most cases, it's been almost 3 years since we've done anything, and this won't take effect until the fall of 24.
And if we do comps with other similar colleges, how do we stand in comparison?
Comparison, yeah. You know, our rates will still beat those really big time. So again, Chad mentioned this, our goal is not to really tax our students, but the cost of products and material and those things. Yeah. So we just want to at least continue to improve on those.
Sorry, can I go back to
Yes,
your
sir.
minute order? You mentioned that it was over $1 million, so it needs approval, but aren't you asking for $850?
Yes, sir. My bad. The policy is when it's the cost of construction or the project exceeds 10% or $500,000. Yeah. So
But you're not asking for it, you're asking for the
No, it's the
850.
850, yes, sir. My mistake.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that.
All right, any questions on the housing? We're good, okay. Minute order 19. You guys have seen this, but, and here's a good illustration or the map here for you guys to see, you know, this property is really a truly important property for us. A lot of room is very upgraded, so we are looking at, working out and negotiating a contract with Level 5 Aerospace. They do similar like a L3 where they do modifications on aircrafts. So we are looking at a 2-year agreement with them to house in that, particular space. One thing from yesterday, when we talked about construction, they mentioned the hangar they were in. If you look at the white one that's not highlighted, that's the one they're referring to. So, but in this one, it'd be a 2-year term, with Level 5 Aerospace. And, we think, bringing this company in will also have some opportunity for students, to participate and work potentially with this, operation. Any questions on that one? All right.
As Regent Honey mentioned, we did hand out a folder during one of the breaks. Included in that folder is the minute order, which we have a placeholder in the board book. This is a minute order to increase the budget for the CCAP building in Abilene. As we reviewed the design of that facility, we felt that there was an opportunity to improve the appearance on the design itself. You'll see an illustration of that in Michael's presentation, and we felt that it was worthy of the project to include that. That does increase the project by about $2 million. So this is a minute order asking for your approval to increase the budget for that project by $2 million. Within the CCAP budget itself, we did have an available balance of $2 million, and that's what we're trying to keep it within that budget. So it's not adding any additional burden to the college. It was money that we already had within the CCAP budget allocation. Any questions? The next item that was included in that folder was an updated master project report. Generally, what we do from board meeting to board meeting is we'll show the changes in the report in red. You will see a green font included as well. Those are the changes in this report between what you have in your board book and what you have in your handout, just to reflect the updated information. Most of this information is just routine in regards to improving the project or reflecting some of the changes that we've requested for your approval. I'll give you a couple minutes to look that over and give you an opportunity to ask any questions. Anyone have any questions? At the request of Regent Honey during a committee meeting, he asked if I could provide an updated timeline or project schedule for all the open construction projects we have. That was also included in that folder. Please take an opportunity to review that, and if you have any questions today or any other time, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll gladly answer any questions you may have.
All right, and
Do most of the projects seem to be pretty well on target?
Yes, sir. The one that was lagging a little bit was the U-Check project, but we're trying to get it caught up as well. Yeah.
all right, and then the last report is the deferred maintenance report. So Regent Cleveland mentioned that last year we received that 4.5 million. You guys received the updated information with the number of projects we completed in fiscal year 23. You also see that projected the number as well for fiscal year 24. So I must say our team is extremely excited to receive those dollars and to put that back into the facilities around the state. So definitely moving in the right direction to shore up any infrastructure issues or concerns that we have with our current buildings. Any questions, thoughts about that report? Anything else, guys?
If I may, I wanted to just commend Kevin for the work that he and his team have done over the last few years. Kevin is a recent hire, but he hit the ground running and has been a valuable asset to the college, so
Thank you,
just
sir.
wanted to recognize that.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks to you too for all you're doing. I hope you all recognize as you drive around in all of our campuses, but you know, specifically Waco, since we're here, the improvements and changes that have been made are simply amazing from when I first came on this campus. And Ron was talking about, he was here in
82.
1982. Sorry to date you, but he went to school here then.
I was just a wee child.
Yeah, baby. The changes are just dramatic, and thanks to you guys for taking care of doing that, implementing those changes and improvements. It's really, I think it's really bringing our school up to where we want it to be and what we want it to look like. So thanks, guys. Thanks to your teams.
That concludes our report.
Thank you, Regent Honey. I now call on Pat McDonald, Chair of the General Administration Committee.
Thank you, Ron. The General Administration Working Group met virtually on October 30th. We discussed multiple operational initiatives and informational updates. Included in your packet is a formal executive summary of the 88th session that Gail updated us on in August. We have 1 minute order and 2 reports to present today to the board. First, I would like to invite Cledia Hernandez to present the proposed minute order and report from the TSTC Foundation.
Thank you. Thank you, Regent McDonald. Well, good morning, almost good afternoon. We've been seeing some amazing growth, as you have seen, starting off this fiscal year with our foundation doing some great strides. But I would also like to formally introduce our new CEO for the TSTC Foundation. Many of you might have met her last night. Patty Rancini has joined us. She has over 25 years of experience from healthcare to higher education and other nonprofits. So we're very excited. As the Chancellor mentioned, you know, she is starting off, you know, building off of what so many have laid that foundation, pun intended, for where we're at today. And we just continue to strive for some just great growth. So thank you, Patty.
Happy to be here.
So in your package, you will find we do have 1 minute order. It is a requirement for the Board of Regents to approve the operational plan for the TSTC Foundation to cover the period of September 1st, 2023 and August 31st through August 31st, 2024. The Foundation Board met on October 10th and they have approved the plan. The plan was put together by our amazing team, and you will find there are a copy of it in your book, and as well as you got another printed copy of that. And so we seek your approval of minute order 0323.
Thank you, Cledia. Now I would like to invite Michael Bettersworth to present an update on integrated marketing.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Bettersworth. I serve as the Chief Marketing Officer at Texas State Technical College. It's a great pleasure to present to you today. This is the first time we've presented as an integrated marketing team. So it's really exciting. We've got a lot of people that are involved in this, and so bear with me. I'll be mentioning a few names as we go through the presentation today. We've got a hard copy of this as well in front of you. If are coming around to you right now, we have a few extra copies as well for attendees. We'll be covering 3 main topics. First is to introduce the general concept of integrated marketing. We'll describe the definition of that and the main functional areas of this new body. We'll talk a lot about data and trends, where we are in a national context, how TSTC has done this last cycle, comparing to other institutions as well, comparing to past trends. And then lastly, we'll focus on our strategies for growth looking ahead. First, integrated marketing. There's a distinction between the normal term marketing, which people tend to think about as advertising, and integrated marketing, which is really much more holistic. It reaches across the organization and is deeply collaborative. It's closely aligned with product. What kinds of products should we be offering in partnership with our head of alignment, Carla, who's just joined us? How do we develop go-to-market strategies and package things together in our messaging? And sometimes we may identify new product opportunities and bring those to product to collaborate on how we're responding to our core mission. The other component has to do, of course, with messaging and these other elements, which we'll break down in a little bit. But the main focus is how do we place more Texans in great paying jobs? We do this looking through the lenses of the three strategic imperatives: quality, compellingly unique, and industry responsiveness. You'll see those themes come back up in a moment. The functional divisions of integrated marketing include the four following groups. The first is our leadership team. This is comprised of my chief of staff, Joyce Gorgon, you can say hi. Julie Browning is here as well, executive assistant. Michael McAndrew, leading all of our project works, who's recently joined us, as well as Rich Ferschel, a labor market economist, Max Miner, Cameron Crockett, and our skills engine team, and a few others. Our core focus here is on our strategy, our metrics, our performance, our vision, our budgeting, our project planning, hygiene, and cadence. Enrollment, which in business terms would be your sales and your order fulfillment function, for lack of a better term. Enrollment is a lot of people. These are all recruiters, including 60 or so recruiters around the state, veteran recruiters that have specialized knowledge. The enrollment team, which is 150 coaches. The coaches help our students go through the registration process, collecting documents, transcripts, registering for classes, federal financial aid. Navigating those processes is complex, and our students, many of them, have never dealt with these things before, so it's brand new. That requires a lot of, and it's intimidating, frankly. So the coaches are really those empathetic voices that help our new students and our existing students as they return for re-registration. So both new customer acquisition, if you will, and customer retention happens with this enrollment team. Also federal financial aid, and I'm missing a few other, the registrar's office, oh my gosh. This team works very closely with data and analytics, George and Tina in particular, managing our data team. So this is Dr. Christine Stewart-Carruthers, leads this organization. Her partners Trey Pearson and Marcus Crook, and so many more. And I mentioned data and analytics. Branding and creative is typically what we think about in marketing, and it's what we've had at TSTC. This is what enables our brand to stand out, and boy does it. You can look at TSTC's signage, our website, our products, and they really are distinct and compellingly unique compared to a lot of other colleges, and it's on purpose. The team that was hired to do the website wasn't a college team. It's a team we tend to go outside of the higher education market to find vendors that don't bring in traditional kinds of techniques to make us stand out. That tradition has been created with the branding and creating division led by Nick Alvarado. We have Maria Aguirre who's here, Melissa Lassiter, and more. There's so many more as well. So pardon me, Peter Macias here. Peter, we'll talk about in a little bit when we get to earned media. So the new one is product marketing. This is an element that we haven't had formally established at the college. And this is the bridge between our products and formalizing our go-to-market strategies, right? Nick and team have kind of carried that duty along with all of the branding and creative for a long time. Well, as we've grown, now our levels of sophistication of how we enter these markets, the demand for that warrants this specific function. That job posting is open now. We've had more than 30 applicants in the last 5 days, including people from Fortune 50 companies that are applying to come to TSTC. Our brand is so strong. We are really pulling great talent that post-COVID, people are looking for purpose. If they're not happy in their current maybe corporate environment or setting and they see what we offer, which is purpose, we're really seeing that in the applicant pools lately, and it's enabling us to hire at an amazing caliber. Data and trends. The two-year college sector is on a decline. And it's really quite stark, and it's going to accelerate. The reason it's accelerating is the demographic trends in the country. In 2027, there's a fall off of high school graduates nationally, around 9%, because people are having fewer children. The birth rate in America is dropping, and it has been since the 70s, and it's continuing. Immigration coming into the country is what's keeping our population up, but the actual birth rate is declining. So these drops in community colleges enrollment in most parts of the country are going to continue, if not accelerate. That is really huge. In Texas, however, our population is growing because a lot of people are moving here from other states. Okay, so our high school graduation numbers for the foreseeable future don't have a steep decline. We're in a really great market in Texas. So how does TSTC fare over the same time frame? Blue shows the TSTC line and the Texas Community College line. These include dual enrollment, by the way. We've updated these to include those from our previous committee meeting, I should mention. Here's where we started closing programs to do our market alignment. Around 14 or so in 16 and a few more in 18. So that decline in enrollment was by design, but you can see now we've got a break. We've got a 4-year trend here with a 7% increase. But throughout this time period, new student acquisition has gone up. We've continued to enroll more and more and more freshman class, up 34% over the last 10 years. This most recent fall saw a record 4,544 new freshmen enter TSTC. In addition to new customers, retention is also at a record high. We call it persistence in higher education. It's how many eligible students persist from one semester to the next semester. And our summer to fall persistence, this most recent cycle, hit 82.3%. So when we combine new customer acquisition and customer retention, along with a very modest tuition, but that also does tend to track with inflation, those three things add up to record tuition revenue. This last fall saw a record in tuition revenue, and the forecast for the year, as you heard earlier, is around 60 million. We can extrapolate fall into the other semesters pretty accurately, but we're on target for what looks like a record fiscal year in tuition. These additional capital are enabling us to eat what we kill, so to speak. We're being able to grow our own operating capital more and more, rather than reliance on maybe tuition revenue bonds or HEAF or we still want those, don't get me wrong, but the volatility of that external funding causes us to kind of grow in spurts. The more we can grow our own, the more stable operating capital we have for better strategic planning. Strategies for growth. This is a busy slide, but I wanted to share it because it illustrates how we can think about integrated marketing. You've maybe heard of the 4 Ps of marketing. Mike updated me on the 4 Cs of marketing, which is a more customer-oriented approach. And then we have our 3 strategic imperatives. So this is kind of how we're framing our strategies, and these are not inclusive. There are many more of these underneath them, but I want to focus on 4 of these today. First is the user or the college and student experience, how we're making some investments to significantly improve the experience of our students. Next is on our campuses, new buildings and expansions. Then on our communication, a really big shift in culture from selling college to advising on careers. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. And then lastly, our elevation and our messaging, from branding to product to more storytelling. First, on experience, Workday Student is a massive evolution of TSTC's customer experience. Already today, for fall 2024, more than 2,000 students have applied using Workday Student that just went live weeks ago. One of the unique things about this tool is it enables our students to upload their transcript. They can use their phone, apply, take a picture of a document. Christine, how are we doing this last fall?
Students were bringing them by hand or having them mailed to us.
Physically bringing us in an official transcript. I mean, think about the amount of time of 20,000 applications and physical paper. That's where we were this time last year. And as of a few weeks ago, more than 3,000 documents have been uploaded by applicants today. That enables our coaches to spend a lot more time focusing on individuals than shuffling paper. That's one example of the innovation that Workday Student is enabling, and the acceleration that should give us in our conversion rates. We're very optimistic. The next is our customer relationship management infrastructure. We've been using a product that's quite popular, Salesforce and TargetX, for a long time. It's quite an expensive tool, and the infrastructure required to support it is another ERP, another enterprise resource planning burden. We would like to have as few of those as possible, Dale, I think, right?
Absolutely.
So we found Element looking at some other colleges, and they're using the latest artificial intelligence with OpenAI to help us generate text messages, emails, build entire microsites in a matter of minutes, trained on all of our language about who we are and how we speak, what are the FAQs and common questions. So it is the latest cutting edge technology in customer relationship management at a fraction of the operating costs that we've been running. So the lead prioritization and ability to have a response time that frankly sometimes in our busy season can be weeks to minutes will be enabled through that investment. So this is coming online in the next, we're aggressive 10-week implementation schedule. We're trying to get this done before the calendar year is out to avoid some expensive renewal costs. And then finally, you may have seen and toured, I think yesterday, the Experience Center, Discovery Center. We're still working on that. The first floor of the JBC. And that's a real investment in, instead of a welcome center that you're selling college, is all about an experience of discovery. What are the career opportunities that you might be interested in? We really want to vet that ahead of time. The worst thing we can do is sell somebody a program that isn't a good fit. They invest their time, their money, and their hope in TSTC, and we didn't do our good job to qualify that lead. So that first floor represents a real intentionality and discovery in the sales process. In a divergence from traditional welcome centers, which feature climbing walls and lazy rivers, and okay, it's a real departure. Another thing to be compellingly unique. I can't go without mentioning the buildings. When we think about experience, the buildings are a huge component. By the way, I want to mention that the foundation, Patty, we've had a wonderful conversation about the fundraising opportunities around that experience center. So employers be on the lookout for some asks to sponsor some of the elements in that program. The new buildings that we're building, these designs, they're designed, the charrette designs with these architects, the things we talked about were, you know, the dark, dirty, dangerous way that people think about technical ed and workforce. These buildings are the opposite. We learned in Fort Bend, we learned in Hutto, we learned in Abilene how to bring in glass, how to bring in metal, to bring in structures. They're not extraordinarily expensive, but they have a feel, an industrial feel, but also something that elevates the importance of what's happening in there. I can't just state enough how different that is from some of the buildings you saw the other day on your tour, where our faculty are making do with the best they can with structures from the 50s and 60s, and how we honor not only our students and our faculty, but these careers with these new buildings. It's really a massive sea change for us. And these aren't the only ones. There's more coming, including the worksite location coming out of the ground in Waco and hopefully other locations. So these things are reflective of our experience and our brand, just as is our advertising or marketing or curriculum might be. I mentioned the cultural shift. Traditional college recruiting is really about selling college. The amount of training that goes into the recruiter about the degree programs, about the career opportunities is pretty low at most institutions. At TSTC, our recruiting core will know our products. They'll know the career opportunities. They'll know that somebody that wants to be a line worker, but may have a DWI in their past, may need to consider a new career option because an employer is going to require a commercial driver's license, and that DWI is going to be a problem. So we can counsel people into programs, but sometimes counseling someone out of a program and into another direction is what's needed. That means that our recruiters have to understand 48 different product lines. That's a lot. It's a lot of training and awareness that we're making those investments into. What that'll do is putting a career first, though, it might increase our customer acquisition costs with a little bit of time, although we intend to offset that with artificial intelligence and our CRM, but it'll improve our persistence. Our customer retention costs will go down because we've got a proper fit from the start. So there's some real multipliers in the payoffs there. The last thing I want to talk about today is dealing with our messaging. The budget for TSTC's advertising last fiscal for the entire state of Texas was $1.3 million in advertising buy. To give you some perspective, Austin Community Colleges spends almost triple that just in their market. And we are competing in those markets for messaging. So historically, we've only been able to really do brand advertising and in a digital format. Google, Facebook, etc. It's why you don't see a lot of TV ads and billboards around, because those are very expensive to do. Well, we are making investments in advertising. In this last cycle, we increased our advertising budget and did some tests with we would call product marketing. Product marketing is actually talking about the programs or the solution rather than just the college. And here's some early results. This is a correlation, but we feel pretty good about the correlation because we can track when somebody sees an ad, when they click it, when they apply. So we've got pretty good efficacy in the correlations. But last fall, from May to August, we spent $275,000 in brand advertising and realized about 22 in tuition. And this year we spent, under that time frame of May to August, basically another $1 million. And had a significant increase in apps, quality apps, and conversions. So it was a really nice market test of product marketing's power. So we will be doing more of that this year for this next fall as well. But in addition to moving, we're also telling our story more. You ever heard TSTC is the best kept secret? Okay, this is a horrible part of your brand. That's not a good sign. So our website's evolving with some new content areas. One, the great expansion, featuring each of the projects that we're building, not only CCAP, but other projects coming out of the ground and telling the story about those. Should be very handy for our GR team and others to show people that are investing in the college what we're doing with that investment. And then the other one is talking about special projects. Our new apprenticeship. You may be familiar with the GigaPress. Am I allowed to talk about that? Yeah, the apprenticeship? Am I under NDA? Looking? Probably not. Okay. Okay. The GigaPress, there's some of the most crazy advances in automobile manufacturing down at the Giga, Texas. While we were touring for the opening of the factory, we ran into the person that runs the presses. And he said, man, we really need some tool and die workers. And we said, we can help you. And that one conversation, we resulted in about $1 million annual contract where we're training Tesla's employees in tool and die for 2 years in a wonderful apprenticeship program. There are many other success stories. Techcelerate, where we're bringing in hundreds of counselors to train. So we don't talk a lot about these projects that we do, and we're going to start talking about them a lot more and giving them attention. So the best kind of attention, though, that you can get is we use other people's money, okay? And that's earned media. TSTC's earned media has been really taking off in things like the Make It movement.
Right now, more than ever, there are so many high-skill, high-income careers all across Texas that young Texans and their parents don't even know about. So, if you want to start your journey of exploring those high-skill, high-income careers where you can make a lot of money and make a difference doing something that you're good at right here in Texas, go to makeitmovement.org so you too can make it in Texas.
Roy Spence and the Make It movement have spent just about $500,000 in the last 2 months during football games on advertisements in the Austin market featuring TSTC students and labs. And we didn't pay $1 for those. All right? In fact, our total earned media is up 46% in impressions from last year, with the estimated market value, I think conservatively, of $20 million of advertising. So when people talk about us, we track that, and this is a wonderful thing. And it's not just in the United States, even other countries. Peter was telling me about an article in Poland that was published talking about some of our programs at TSTC. So we have international fame in our earned media that's happening. So lastly, on messaging, from branding to raise awareness, from product marketing to selling solutions, okay? Now storytelling, and with storytelling, your brain doesn't say that's an ad. Storytelling, your brain leans in, and done well. And the piece we're going to show you here is about a promise we made to Juan Sanchez.
I've had a lot of no's, I've had a lot of failures, but I never had that quit mentality. If you would have asked me 30 years ago if this is where I'd be today, I probably wouldn't have an answer for you. We migrated from Mexico in 1984. I was 5, and we didn't have the classic summers, you know, where you get out of school and you go play, you got sleepovers, and we didn't have that. We worked. So by the time I was 18, I only had 2 goals. Graduate high school and go to work. That's it. My parents didn't know anything about, you know, school loans or scholarships or go to this school or go to this program. It was nothing. And so I said, I'm not going to go to school. I'm going to go into the workforce, and here's where I earn my real money and help my family out. I did that, and I quickly realized that that was not for me. That's when I decided to go to school. Being a surgical technician led me to meaningful opportunities. And it was the first stepping stone to the rest of my career. From working in the fields to working in the operating room. Nothing beats that certificate, that degree that I got that day. It is the foundation to everything I have done. It gave me the confidence to further my education. Now, I manage a small hospital where I have the privilege of hiring surgical technology graduates. I help people in ways I've never imagined. And it all started at TSTC.
Here today, Nick, could you stand? And Amanda Molina and Eric Montmeyer is not here. This was produced entirely internally by our creative services team. And Hollywood's not here, our new editor we hired. But it's a demonstration of the caliber of the talent we've got, even in-house, and a lot of institutions don't have that. We've got such great talent and so many hundreds and thousands of stories to tell about our students, our alumni, our faculty, and employer partners. And in the months and years ahead, we'll be focusing more and more about the stories that we have to tell. So we are no longer the best kept secret in Texas. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions from the board? That concludes my report.
Thanks, Pat, appreciate it. The open meeting of the TSTC Board of Regents on Thursday, November 9th, after proper posting and for specific purposes provided in the Texas Open Meeting Act, including those in subchapter D, will recess and the closed meeting will begin shortly. In a moment, I'll ask the public to retire from the room. The Regents will remain here to conduct the closed meeting. When the closed meeting is adjourned, the board will reconvene the open meeting. The current time is 12:32 p.m. The public may please retire now. All right, so the open meeting of the TSTC Board of Regents will reconvene at 2:21 p.m. Okay, so during the closed session, Regent Honey, we've got further action to be considered on several minute orders,
Yes,
correct?
correct. I'll move those forward, request approval. I would move for approval of minute order CS 12-23.
Second.
Move approval of minute order CS 13-23.
Second.
I'll move approval of minute order CS 14-23. Move approval of minute order CS 15-23.
So moved. Second.
And move approval of minute order CS 16-23.
Jump in there, Ron.
Second.
There you go.
So you have the minute orders, motions, and seconds.
Right. So we have those motions by Regent Honey and seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those minute orders have passed. We also talked about a couple of salary increases for the two employees that fall under the board's purview. We have Jason Mallory and Jeff Reeser. And commensurate with their performance, we approved merit increases for both those gentlemen. And we will coordinate that with HR.
Through council.
Pardon?
Through council.
Through council,
There you go.
correct. In discussion with general counsel, we will
Understood, sir.
route that over there. Is there any other discussion on items in closed session that we need to speak to? All right. Next, we'll consider the consent agenda items. And understand, Mr. Cleveland, you have one that you would like to.
So I need to request FAO 9-23.
We want to pull out 0923.
Voted on separately.
And we will vote that one separate. That is the policy for investments. All right. So I'll entertain a motion to approve that particular minute order.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Please note that I abstain.
And we have one abstention, Curtis Cleveland. All right, and then so for the balance of the minute orders on the consent agenda, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minute orders.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Those motions carried. Now, under unfinished business, is there any unfinished business? Hearing none. Under new business, I'd like to call on Ed Vallejo.
All right, so pursuant to the bylaws, Article 2, Section 1, I provided the board with a slate of officers for 2024. Also confirmed that they're willing to serve in those positions. The slate of officers is as follows. Chair, Tiffany Tremont. Vice Chair, Ron Whittup. Executive Place 1, Keith Honey. Executive Place 2, Kathy Stewart. Those are the slate of officers for 2024.
I move that be approved as submitted.
A second.
And Lizzie, second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Very good. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate that. Next, we'll go to the proposed meeting dates for calendar year 2024. On page 88 of your book, you have I don't have any.
75.
75, page 75. So you see the dates in front of you and the locations. I do not see Fiji. Hey. So any issues with any of these dates, y'all, that look good?
I just have a question. Are they all gonna be in Waco? Or it just says Waco for now?
Our tradition is that the chair will pick venues. It has been Tiffany's practice in the past to do some other locations, but at the time of this printing, we didn't know her wishes.
Are there's,
So-
the
So
venue
Fuji's
is subject to
still-
change, so it could.
Fiji's still on the table.
Right.
Or not?
There's still hope.
But so these are the dates, so put those in your calendars and subject to change and venues may change, we'll figure that out later, but this is the way we have it today. So, I'll get those in my calendar. Chancellor, have any comments?
Only that on behalf of the Waco administration, it was an honor to host the board here at the Waco location and acknowledge the amount of prep that went into getting ready here with various vice chancellors, Kevin's folks and Jonathan's folks and many others lent a hand in being prepared. And so on your behalf, I offer them accolades for a job well done.
Very good. Thank you. And understand this may be somebody's last board meeting.
Yes, sir.
Mr.
Matt,
McDonald.
tell you what, we've got to know each other through the years and boy, the stuff you did down at Fort Bend and really, really appreciate all you've done for the school over these last years.
Thank
Really, really do appreciate it. We're gonna miss you. Appreciate all you've done.
Thank you.
So we'll buy you a beer next time.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all very much.
All right, so we've got the next meeting on the 8th of February. Any other final comments before we adjourn from any of the regents?
Thanks, Pat, for all you've done.
Thank you, bud.
You're a big part of our growth.
Thanks, sir. For sure.
And I echo what the chancellor said. Thank you all for your hospitality, for the tour yesterday, for the food. It's always great to see all of you. You do an amazing job. Very proud to represent you.
Very good. Yeah, great meeting, great folks. And with that, we are adjourned at 2:29.